I have a bit more of a specific question on networking as well. So whenever I try to network with people, generally like about energy, it always soars onto oil and gas. Most people, either on the finance side or even as engineers, are mostly in the oil and gas space. So in terms of clean energy things, it always boils down to what you guys said, cold calling or emailing individuals in companies that I find who are in the clean energy space. Do you guys have any advice on maybe are there more concentrated networks of people in clean energy that we can tap into as opposed to just looking up individuals in companies, specific companies?
Are there
I heard
any?
this
Are there
website
any?
called Day Away Careers.
Ba-bump bump. Raju?
Yeah, so I'm probably not the best guy to answer this. I think Julian might be the best person to do this. But I do agree with your sentiment that like oil and gas is dominant when it comes to the sheer number of opportunities. And so from that perspective, I wouldn't let it deter you, but I'll save it for later as to why I think that at the same time I think it's something you should consider and also learn a little bit more about if you haven't already. So Julian, I'll probably hand it off to you.
Julian, we lost your mic again.
All right, so Julian's having trouble. I'll jump into.
Go for it. Go for it.
It's tough to, like you said, find a little pocket of people that all work in an industry that's interesting to you, and it's tough to find. It really is. There are, at least in Boston where I am, there are groups like Green Drinks where on Thursday night, the third Thursday of every month, everybody goes to one bar and you can network and connect. But more broadly, I'm sure that there are groups that you could find out, but it's a matter of what are you looking for? Are you looking for the top companies that are hiring, material science, finance guys out of college? Because lists like that, are something that's one-off that you're going to have to go and dig for and look for kind of those indexes. But, the communities and things like that, yeah, sniff around on Facebook, on LinkedIn, that's a tough path, though, really. Good question.
Yeah, it is a tough question. Sorry, my these computers we get here at Tesla are actually extremely buggy and always freeze, so my microphone wouldn't unmute. But I would say some of the groups I utilize at school, we had a couple of kind of clean technology engineering groups where we would they would bring in speakers from companies sometimes, or some kind of engineering groups that are building some kind of clean tech product. I'm not sure if you guys probably have a couple. It's a big school, so those groups usually have graduates that go on to clean tech jobs, and usually there's some kind of connection that you can form through those groups. Another one might be meetup.com, but that requires you to be in an area where you can go and physically meet people. But yeah, it's a difficult question. I don't really have a great answer for how to meet people that you want to, who you've never met before.
Tim.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, just one small point. Julian reminded me. It was the same case for us that most of the opportunities were through the engineering school. So to the extent that we had specific director at the Office of Career Services for us that was particularly working with the engineering school and engineering companies and making that happen on campus. So I think generally I would think that most of the startups or smaller companies in base, or rather I should say the logic goes the other way. A lot of the clean energy companies are relatively smaller in size, and so that's one of the reasons that it's a little bit harder to find them. But to the extent that your Office of Career Services has any connections or any resources to kind of focus on that, and then through the engineering school as well, my guess is that's probably the best way to do it, because I know likewise for us, people that did end up at clean energy companies did at least found a connection, even if they weren't engineers, found a connection through the engineering school.
Yeah, that stirred something up for me too. At Duke, at least, there was a website that it was really tough to find. It wasn't publicized, but it had all the contact information from former students, and with a couple preset filters, you can find people with finance backgrounds who are working in energy. So honestly, I don't see why you couldn't find a friend from a different school with a network like that if you're really looking. I mean, you could probably tap into some other resources like that. Someone's got to have a good one already built.
Tim, the one thing too I was going to fire back at you is you don't want to look past the sort of the leading professional societies for the various sectors, right? So, if your interest is, let's just say your starting point is you're interested in finance, but you're also interested in a particular industry, solar or wind or bioenergy or smart grid. All of those sectors have professional societies that they have bunches of them, and then of those, there's always one or two that's by far and away. So for solar, there's ASIS, the American Society of Solar Energy, and then AWEA for wind, and then there's some broad sort of across industry organizations like ACOR. And get in touch with me later if I'm just shooting this stuff off at you. I've got listings of all these places, and the other thing too is. And I try not to plug day away, but I also try to be honest about something. I'm following like 1,000 companies that I know are either making money or getting money, and I've got them divided into industry sectors. And the bad news is, and this sort of goes to Julian points about emails rarely work. Most of my online listings that I put up, most of the time you're not going to get a job from those. They're a long shot. But they are great clues. They're indicators of the companies that are hiring. And so, the online listings, whether you get them off a day away or wherever the hell you get them, they are a great way to figure out who are the companies that are making money. And if they're making money, they're hiring. So, there's these societies which can get you into the companies and can get you connected to the people to network. But then there's also just watching the online listings to figure out where are the companies that are, that are actually hiring. Now, the problem with that too is somebody mentioned a lot of the really cool companies are small. Bad news is they don't hire a lot, but they do hire, but they don't put out online listings. That's all private brokering stuff. So, that takes you back to the networking. Okay, we probably spent too much time on this one.